Hey everyone, Internet Vicious Book Reader here. Today I want to talk about Berserk the Golden Art by Kentaro Miura. I don't usually review long-term storytelling by each arc, but I want to make an exception for Berserk because it's just that good of a story. Berserk the Golden Art starts with a baby found by a traveling mercenary under a tree of dead bodies. Despite taking a baby from such a place considered as bad luck, the group takes the child and name him Guts. And despite the place he grew up in, Guts become a caring child who still holds his mother's hand in her deathbed, not caring about how she looks in her sickness and the possibility of contagion. He grew up further in the battlefield, handling weapons much bigger than him and being abused by his adoptive father Gambino. To survive in the battlefield, he learned how to use the sword even if they're the oversized adult sword for a kid like him, giving context to why he's using those giant ass swords as an adult in the first arc. Berserk starts now, literally. From God's childhood in the war, it will be a very different story than the first arc. Here they're fighting in wars against people instead of monsters. God still have both of his hands, and the monsters that kept attacking him are nowhere to be seen from the majority of the arc. It's just a very horrible warmongering war. And growing up in such a world, he had to learn how to kill or be killed from such a young age, and he even had to experience being sold by Gambino to another man, causing him to develop hepatophobia, a phobia of getting touched by someone else. And despite having those experiences, he still didn't lose his humanity, still caring for Gambino when he lost his leg. Meanwhile, Gambino, the mercenary head who picked up Guts because of his wife lost his leg, and his insecurities showed even more since now he had to rely on a child for a living. And after using Guts for so long for his own benefit, now he blamed Guts for his situation. He finally lost his mind and attacked Guts, trying to kill him. And in defense of himself, Guts accidentally killed Gambino, a man who he thought of as a father. He survived once again, and unfortunately for Guts, this will become a pattern in his life. After a while, he became quite a well-known mercenary that works like a freelancer, refusing to go into group for fear of attachment. Years later, after running away from his mercenary group, Guts meets Griffith, leader of the Band of House, a new mercenary group that consisted of young people. After getting into a fight with the group and a duel with Griffith where he lost, he's recruited into the house, where he met Casca, Corpus, Judeo, Gaston, Ricard, and Pippin. Some of them you'll like, some will take time to warm up, and some of them you might never like, but they become the main part of the story. So for the longest time after Guts closed his heart, he got involved with people he will consider friends, with Griffith's ambition to get his own kingdom and the suspicious Behelit necklace that is said to promise power. Guts joined the band to many wars. They'll go through many battles together as a group, with Griffith leadership from nameless mercenary group into the political landscape of a kingdom. Guts, who are always alone until this point, learned another way of living. He even became a commander in the band that cared for his comrades. The band seems unstoppable until they meet Nosferatu Zod during one of the campaigns. Here, for the first time since the Golden Art starts, we see something other than human, a monster. Griffith and Guts almost died fighting him, but seeing the Behelit, he escaped, leaving a prophecy to the group and to Guts that Griffith's dream will come crashing down and kill them all. Other than that, the group continues to win war and gain fame enough to become closer with aristocrats, even kings and princesses. Guts even dabbled in assassinating a duke and accidentally killed the duke's young son too, scarring the young man's psyche even more. And in such a vulnerable state, Guts went to Griffith wanted to report, but Griffith is busy entertaining the princess. Here he heard him talk about Griffith's dream, Griffith's way of life. Meanwhile, Guts is living someone else's life, living Griffith's dream because he doesn't have one of his own. So after they won their larger campaign that gives Griffith an official title from the king, Guts decided to leave the Band of Hawk in order to go on a journey to be able to stand side by side with Griffith as a true friend and not just as a tool. Griffith won't accept his leave, so once again they decided to fight for Guts' freedom. Unlike 3 years ago, Guts won the fight, so he left, trusting that Griffith will still move towards his goal, but losing Guts drove Griffith to do something stupid. He slept with the princess, causing the king that has been saving his daughter for his own self to punish him and the band severely. We start to see the high of Berserk storytelling here. Spreads are no longer used to just showcase Guts' strength, the largeness of the enemy, the harshness of fight and wars, the beauty of the world and the horribleness of it, but also the stillness of life where our characters can take a breath for a while in between the difficulties that they have to face. It's in this arc where we can see how much Guts actually crave for connection with other people, for friends and possibly even lovers. People that he can consider a family, a place where he belongs. Which makes Griffith's betrayal at the end of the Golden Arc such a hard thing to watch. Not just because of the horrible events that make even Game of Thrones Red Wedding more preferable, but also because of how much it affected Guts in such a personal level. When Griffith sold all of them to gain power by saying yes to the Eclipse offer, Griffith not only killed off Guts' friend, but Griffith also forced himself on Casca while he held Guts down to watch them. It is the reason why he becomes such an angry and broken man in the first arc. If the Black Swordsman arc is the author trying to copy the big muscle action hero of that era action manga like Fist of the North Star, this arc is where he started to find his footing on the story he wants to tell. Guts at the first arc is an angry man with big sword, and although he showed hints of humanity, there's nothing that explains why he's that bitter toward the world. But this backstory explains all of that. There's no part of the storytelling that are left behind because they're lacking. Parts that might have not aged well are even used to make the story better because the author mostly used them as a chance to expand the story further to the advantage of it, for something to build further, which is such a rare thing that storytellers do, especially in long-term storytelling. A lot of the time when storytellers saw that parts of an already told story is not up to their standard, they either try to ignore it ever happen and hope that us the reader are dumb enough to also forget that certain plot that are introduced ever happened. Or they try to slightly retcon what happened and just hope that everybody's okay with the change plot. But that's not what the late Kentaro Miura did here, for the most part at least. Guts used to be just some dude who randomly wears giant sword as a quirky character design, but in the Golden Arc it is expanded further that is because as a child, he always used sword for an adult. All he have are swords that are bigger than him, and as he grew older, the weight of a larger sword is just more comfortable to him. He wasn't just having a cannon for an arm as some random things, but because his hand was cut off during the eclipse. And he's an angry man not just for the sake of being an edgy main character, but because of the trauma that he had to deal because of what happened during the eclipse. The story of Berserk after the Golden Arc will go on to become a journey of Guts through his anger at the event of the eclipse, but that's a story for another time. Because of how good it is, some little flaws like how Guts assassinated people with big sword in the manga just stands out so much. At that point, Miura I think didn't think to change his sword to smaller one like in later assassination scene. A lot of Berserk makes sense logically in context of the story, like Cascaro being mostly a damsel in distress because it was set in medieval where women doesn't have as much right in that era society, so at least it kinda makes sense that Casca is locked into a damsel in distress trope. And that's why the big sword that leaves a lot of marks stand out so much in the assassination scenes. There seems to be a lot of defender of the scene because they don't like it when people point out flaws in their favorite story, as if that would make it less enjoyable for them. These are people who have yet to realize that it's okay to enjoy story despite their flaws. It is how you learn media literacy. The adaptation of the scene even changed Guts to using normal longsword, and in later assassination in the manga, Guts used a smaller sword compared to his usual gigantic one. And Berserk in later arcs even had some arcs that went on for too long before it got much better. That's why I still think Berserk is one of the greatest story ever told. The assassin/big sword thing is such an insignificant flaw in the overall story that it blows my mind seeing people waste their time and energy trying to justify it as not a flaw in the storytelling. And I haven't even mentioned all the great action scene with how heavy and impactful Guts' swing can go in these spread pages. You don't need to defend Berserk, it's still a great story despite some of its flaws. I give Berserk Golden Arc a 4.75. What do you think? Are you gonna read it? Did I miss anything? Leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it.